room for me to find humanity in this holiday? And I found it. Because that's the quest right now. How do I find myself in these stories? How do I find myself in human beings that are suffering wherever they are? How do I see me? That's got to be the mission, right? So the question was for me, because I was asking everyone on my team, why do we have Columbus Day as a holiday? Why was it a holiday? Now, just full disclosure, it's not a holiday everywhere. So you need to know that. Columbus Day, the first celebration took place October 12th, 1792, when the Columbian Order of New York, better known as Tammany Hall, you know this, those of you who study politics, Tammany Hall held an event to commemorate the 300th anniversary of this 1492 sailing the ocean blue and not being in the United States of America. But we're going to put that over there for a second. Italian Americans started observing Columbus Day as a celebration of their heritage and not of Columbus himself. The day was celebrated in New York City, October 12th, 1866, for the first time. That day was enshrined as a legal holiday. Wasn't a legal holiday actually until the 1970s, which people don't know. It was actually put forth by LBJ in 1968 and was officially celebrated as a federal national holiday in the 1970s. But I'm going to back map a little bit because I feel like, again, we have these utterances not rooted in anything historic. We don't know anything, but we have a lot of opinions. Less opinions, more knowledge has got to be the mantra, and that should be on a t-shirt. Less opinions, more knowledge. Have more knowledge. So the day first came about, the first statewide holiday proclaimed in Colorado in 1905 by the then governor, Jesse McDonald. And it was made a statutory holiday in 1907. The 400th anniversary of Columbus's voyage actually came about because there were lynchings in New Orleans. There was a mob that had murdered 11 Italian immigrants. We're right now in the midst of this immigration thing being at the center of so much anger and angst, and it is a political football. So many people running for president are going to tell you about building walls. We have President Biden talking about, I got to use this money to build the wall because it's appropriated for that, because of the previous president, and then the previous Congress codified that into law. But we're still talking about human beings having a human experience, trying to escape something that is really horrible. So we had during this period of time a large influx of immigrants coming from Italy into this country, and they were put right alongside Black people. And I've said this on these airwaves. I know it because I've seen the signs, no N-words, no Italians, and they had special nicknames for them, horrible nicknames, and they were shut out of neighborhoods, shut out of jobs, shut out for the crime of being an immigrant in America. And in New Orleans, a mob murdered 11 people. They lynched them. They lynched 11 Italians. And President Benjamin Harrison declared Columbus Day as a one-time national celebration to placate. And I'm thinking about George Floyd. I'm thinking about Juneteenth. You see, like, everything has a parallel if you sit in history. So it's my job, as a semi-educator on these airwaves to kind of connect the dots. So I did that for myself today. And I was like, wow, a mob murdered 11 Italian immigrants, and the president responded declaring Columbus Day as a one-time national holiday. One time. And the proclamation was part of a wider effort after the lynching incident because they wanted to placate the Italian Americans who were up in arms. I think George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, we get Juneteenth. So it was a diplomatic measure to ease the tensions also with Italy. See, but unlike the Italians, Black folk don't necessarily have that same connection to Africa. But we should, though. But there was a whole country that the Italians came from that then America was in, because it's Europe, trying to placate, okay, we're mistreating your people here, but here's a holiday. And so it went on 1934 as a result of lobbying by the Knights of Columbus, or again, organization. And I'm doing something today. I'm putting together, first of all, the blueprint for how things get done, but also, I'm back mapping the origin stories. They're really important because it allows us, again, to see why. The why has to be in the midst of everything that we talk about. So the Knights of Columbus. So they had an organization. I guess it's similar to Omega Psi Phi or Alpha Phi Alpha or Sigma. I don't want to leave anybody out. Kappa, the Deltas, the Zetas. They had an organization. The AKAs. I want to give as much as I can. They had an organization, Knights of Columbus. And they were lobbying, because that's what you do when you have a large number. I think there's like 2 million AKA members, right? You got large numbers, you can lobby people. So they lobbied in New York City. The Italian leader, Generoso Pope, went to Congress and they passed a statute. And here's what it said. The president is requested to issue each year a proclamation designating October 12th as Columbus Day, calling on United States government officials to display the flag of the United States on all government buildings on Columbus Day, and inviting people of the United States to observe Columbus Day in schools, in churches, and other suitable places with appropriate ceremonies that express the public sentiment benefiting the anniversary of the discovery of America. And that's where the lie starts, right? So you're going to add that in, you codify it into law. This is myth making in real time. Franklin Delano Roosevelt responded by making the proclamation. And this proclamation did not actually lead to the federal holiday. That didn't happen until 1966, when Mariano Luca from Buffalo, New York, founded the National Columbus Day Committee. So out of that came a whole committee that then lobbied again. So they didn't quit. And I think about affirmative action. You're going to keep going until you reach success. You're not going to quit with the first no. So he lobbied this organization, the National Columbus Day Committee, lobbied to make Columbus Day a federal holiday. And these efforts were successfully and legislatively created, which created Columbus Day as a federal holiday, signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson, June 28, 1968, to be effective beginning in 1971. And since 1971, Columbus Day became an official holiday, observed the second Monday in October as commemorated by the annual presidential proclamation noting Columbus's achievement. Now, since then, we've learned some history. We've read some books. We realized that Columbus wasn't who we thought he was. But it was two things I used to say. Washington Irving codified him or made him part of our lexicon through novels. So the myth making began through writing, and then people don't read. So then the myth gets carried by mouth, and then everyone says Columbus, and then they have a little ditty, 1492, sailed the ocean blue. We all memorize that. And then it becomes this, because you have groups now that are saying, hey, we're being mistreated. How do we not be mistreated? Let's come and lobby for our humanity. And then Congress and people who get elected get scared because they want to get elected. So I'm going to capitulate. Here's Juneteenth or Columbus Day. Put in a proxy. But today we now know better. So it's the Indigenous Peoples Day. Hawaii, Alaska, Vermont, South Dakota, New Mexico, and Maine do not recognize Columbus Day. They have replaced it with the celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day. And in Hawaii, it's called Discoverers Day. In South Dakota, it's called Native American Day. And in Oregon and Washington State, Columbus Day is not an official holiday. Iowa and Nevada do not celebrate Columbus Day as an official holiday. But their governors are authorized and requested by statute to proclaim the day each year, whether they celebrate it or not. And there's some cities throughout the country, beginning in Los Angeles, Berkeley, Denver, Cincinnati, Boise, Austin, Mankato, Philly, Portland, San Francisco, and I can go on. Dozens of others celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day as well. But again, it started with a writer, Washington Irving, who had a trilogy, a three-part novel book that ended up in newspapers and things on this man called Columbus. The myth-making began, and then something horrific happened to Italians that then forced them to come together and form groups. And how can we be human beings in this country? But they had the benefit of being invited into whiteness at some point. We'll have this conversation.
I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you're lusting is the one